Hi, everyone. We're going to start the BoF soon. So if anyone would like to stay and attend, that's great. If you're not interested, that's okay. Try not to take too much offense, but it's all good. No, I'm only kidding. You all set up because I'm not. I am. All right. You can see we don't really have a lot of people here, but that's fine. This is an experiment for us. Which we want to see whether there was a little bit people were interested a little bit more in depth into some of the products and services that we're doing. So this is not a formal presentation or anything. We have a couple of products that we can run through: Dash, MyPinic, Orbit, as well as RDAP. So as I said, it's pretty informal. If there's anything you guys want to know, if there's anything specific that interests you, let us know. If not, we'll keep it short, simple, and we can all go home early. So I'll just ask, there's really only 3 or 4 people here. Is there anything you guys want to see specifically? Nothing? All right, well, we're gonna start with a quick demo of Dash, and then we'll move on from there. Raf, if you've got it.
Okay, so let's go through Dash. For those not familiar with Dash, Dash is a tool that APNIC provides for APNIC members for monitoring network health. So it has currently 2 main features. One is routing status, and the other one is suspicious traffic. I'll just run through each one of them. So when you log into Dash, you see this screen. So basically, it's an overview of any issues you have on routing status and suspicious traffic. So in this case here, I don't have any mismatches for my routing, but I do have one firing alert. So I'll show alerts later. And suspicious traffic, I have no hits in honeypots in the last 30 days, and I have not configured any alerts for suspicious traffic. So let's go to routing status. So the routing status dashboard shows an overview of inconsistencies of your BGP announcements against ROA, RPKI ROA, and route objects in IRR. So in this case here, I have no mismatches. Let me see if I can. If I go to my prefix, I can see some of the BGP announcements I have. And in this case, I have one example here that my announcement doesn't have a ROA or a route object published. So in this case, it's a yellow or a warning. And there are few contexts that you can select here. I can see my routes for my prefix, or I can, if you have multiple ASNs, you can see all the BGP announcements for the specific AS that you select. So what you can do with this? So you can create alerts, and alerts are quite powerful, and I'll show you how you can create one. So you go to alerts, and you click on new alert. And you have 2 types of filter, prefix or origin AS. So let's create alert for a specific prefix that I have. So let's choose this one. And then I select the match type, exact or more specific. And then you can select the trigger. So for trigger, you have 2 types of trigger. One is row or route object alignment. For this one, I can select to be notified about any mismatches of my BGP announcements against row and route objects, or if for the BGP announcement, there is no row or route object published covering that announcement. Another type of trigger is BGP status, and this one gets really interesting. So I can create, for example, a trigger for, let's say, if there is a route that exists that is originated by an ASN that is not in my account. So this could be a prefix hijack, for example. So I can create these alerts, and if there is any BGP announcement that Dash identifies that is for your prefix, but not for your ASN, you'll be alerted straight away. The third step is to define the notification. So here we have 5 options for how you can be notified. The first one is email, SMS, Slack, WhatsApp, and webhooks. So if I select email, for example, I can select myself. So I add me to the list. So I'll be receiving the email, or I can select one of the contacts of my account. Or I can just specify, in the case of email, email address, any email address that you want. And the last step is just defining a name for the alert. So that's how you create Dash alert for routing status. Any questions? Okay, so I'll move to suspicious traffic. I'll just discard this one. So suspicious traffic is basically, we have the honeynet project. That is a network of honeypots. So these honeypots, they are sensors that they are identifying if anyone is trying to invade a machine, pretty much. So if there is traffic coming from your network trying to invade these sensors, it means that probably you probably have a problem. That's why we call suspicious traffic. And we collect all this information from this network of honeypots, and we present to you. So if there is suspicious traffic coming from your network, you'll be able to see it here. And we also do aggregations not only for your ASN, but we do also for your economy, in this case here, Australia, and for the region as well. So you can see how your ASN compares to the economy and the region you are in. You have a few options in suspicious traffic. One of the options, you can generate a report, and you can also subscribe for a recurring report. So for example, if you want to weekly receive reports about all the suspicious traffic coming from your network and compare with the region and economy, you can do this as well. And you can also create alerts for suspicious traffic. So let's create an alert here. So you define the filter. So let's say I want to filter by any prefix announced by selected AS. So I'll select this one. You have 2 options of triggers. The first one is I want to be alerted if there's any hits. When you say hits, it's honeypot hits for the prefix that I select for the first time. This is the first option. And the second option is you can define it pretty much a threshold. So let's say you only want to be notified if there's more than 500 hits in a day coming from your AS that you selected in the previous step. So the next step is to define the notification, and I won't go into the detail on this one because it's pretty much the same as the routing status. So you can select any one of the 5 channels and define the recipient. And let me select one. And the final step is just defining name for the alert, just like the routing status one. Discard this one. And this is pretty much Dash. Any questions? Okay. Andre?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Raf. I'm going to show you some of the changes that are coming to contact management. If that's interesting to anyone, it will be pretty brief because I can't run through the demo. They're on the test servers. I just want to sort of highlight some of the changes, and then I'll hand over to Tom, and then I think we'll wrap it up. So for me, let me just share my screen quickly. Shit, it's the wrong one. So this is my Epic. When you first, this is a test service, so you'll see a lot of little bugs and loading time and incorrect data. So don't worry about that. The main thing I want to show is some of the changes that are coming in the next few months. When you go to your too many bars here. When you go to your account contacts, you'll notice that it's a lot different to what you might be used to at the moment. So the first thing you'll notice is a very large banner with information about why it looks like it does and what the changes are coming. There's a couple of links here to blog post and in more additional information on our help desk about what's going to change and why we've made these changes. We've been talking about the changes for about nearly 2 years now. So this is really just putting those changes in the hands of our members so they can actually decide how they want to manage their contacts themselves. So the main difference is you've got this table at the top, which is authenticated contacts. You've got this table at the bottom, which is unauthenticated contacts. And then you may or may not have this table in the middle, which is a series of contacts that are transitioning from one side to the other. So normally what you'll be doing is transitioning from your unauthenticated contacts to your authenticated contacts. So in the authenticated contact section, these are people that have APNIC login. So these are all people that have APNIC login and they are associated with this account. If there is a duplicate, so you might find that here's an example of one where this is the same email address. So this email has been duplicated from the bottom, and it could be multiple times. So there's one version of this email address that is authenticated, and then there's a whole bunch of them that potentially are duplicates. They could have different roles. So depending on the roles and depending on whether they have separate roles or not, this button here will change. So you can either remove it, and if there are different roles, we'll allow you to change the role when you do consolidate them. You can change permissions. I'm not going to go into all of that, but the ability is there, and you can remove contacts as well if you want. You can also invite new contacts, which is basically inviting a contact to the account. And if they don't have an APNIC login, it'll set up an APNIC login for them. When you do invite, they go into this pending stage, and there's two stages to it. One is to ensure they have an APNIC login, and if they don't, they can go through the process and verify whether they do, verify whether they would like to join or not. So this is more about the APNIC login, and we'll have the stages reflected here, and you'll be able to resend emails depending on that stage. And then the second stage is actually giving them access to the account. Again, you can delete or withdraw these invitations. And then the final stage, which is really the bit that we want you guys to focus on, is more about cleaning up these accounts. So these are a whole bunch of unauthenticated contacts, meaning none of them have APNIC logins. And so you can either bulk resolve them or you can resolve them individually. So resolving will give you a choice of either deleting the account or sending them an invitation to get an APNIC login. That's really all I wanted to show you guys. There's a lot of functionality behind this. I'm not going to go through all of them, but those are the major changes coming in the next few months. Any questions? Cool. I'll hand over to Tom.
Thanks, Andre. Just let me share the screen. Okay, So I was going to run through a couple of things during the session. The first one is basic route management operations via our member portal. And the second one was a very quick overview of RDAP. So this is the route management interface for the APNIC training account, which is one of the accounts that APNIC has, an APNIC member account that APNIC itself operates. And this is the list page for the current routes for this account. So you can see prefixes, origin aliases, and the rower and whois status for each route. So if I click add new, then I can register a new route, and this is something that abstracts over whois and RPKI. So they've said I can create routes for this range. And one thing that we have in this interface is pre-validation, which means that if you put an incorrect ASN in or something like that, that's going to cause problems in BGP, then the interface will tell you about that and let you try to fix the problem up. So this range is actually announced out of 45192, not 4608. So go submit. It's possible to batch together operations. So the creation there has gone to this pending queue where I can review it again. Usually there would be more than one to review, and press commit. And then that will trigger pre-validation, which will then point out that there are some problems. So there are two announcements for the 48s under this 47, and they come from a different origin AS. And because there are no other rows, if I submit this and they're created, then those announcements will become RPKI invalid. So I don't want to commit those changes. I'll remove that from the queue and instead add it with the correct ASN. So back to the pending queue, commit again. It's complaining again. I must have put the wrong ASN. Let's have a look. In front of so many people as well. Okay, yeah, I needed to put the max length in. Thanks, Raf. So that's actually another thing, shows another aspect of the interface, which is where if the length is different from the max length, you get to see all of the subroutes underneath, and you can select or deselect those individually. So I'll submit all of them together. Pending queue again. Okay, so no pre-validation problems that time because it was actually okay. So let's go and look at the task log, and this is where we can see the progress of the actual underlying operations. And if we scroll down here, we can see that 3 whois objects were created for the 47 and the 248s, but only one RPKI route had to be, RPKI rower had to be created because max length is expressible in the rower directly. So that was all successful, hooray. And that's pretty much, like, that's a very brief overview of route management, but that really hits all the core features that are available via that system. So moving on to RDAP. RDAP is effectively a JSON wrapper around whois, and I'm assuming people are familiar with whois. RDAP has a couple of extra features on top of whois that make it quite useful though. One of those is that IANA hosts files called bootstrap files, which you can use to find the right place to go for a given query. And there isn't really something like that for whois. So if we open this up, this is the, I hope everybody can see that. No. This is the bootstrap file for IPv4 resources that you can download from the IANA site. And the RDAP RFCs define this process whereby you download these files and then look in them for the server that you need to go to for the query. So right at the top here, we can see the 6/8s that belong to Afrinic. So if you have an RDAP client and your user query is 41.1.2.3 or something like that, you can load this file up and go, oh, that belongs to Afrinic as an like it's an authoritative statement that Afrinic has that range, and you can send the query off to Afrinic and Afrinic will answer. So the bootstrap is one nice aspect of how RDAP works, just standardizing that whole space. Another nice aspect is that all of the formats are common across the different registries. So I'll just do that query again. So 1.2.3.4 is a range that belongs to APNIC. So if we look at the raw data, it's JSON, hooray. And if we look here, we get a sort of structured breakdown of that JSON. So you get terms and conditions, events related to the object for like registration and the last time it was changed, links. So this is actually a link to NetOx to show some details about the IP address and so on. So the sorts of information you get via Whois are also available via RDAP. And each RIR and the domain registries and so on use the same formats here. So it's not like with Whois where you have 50 different servers and 50 different formats. There really is just one with minimal levels of divergence between those servers. And another nice aspect of how this works is that you can use a server like rdap.org, which will handle the redirect for you from the bootstrap. So if I go to rdap.org and go domain google.com, then that will get those bootstrap files from IANA and send it off to the right place, which in this case is VeriSign's RDAP server. And although this is a forward domain, so not something that APNIC hosts, the format is actually quite similar. Lots of common elements that you can see in both APNIC's RDAP and VeriSign's RDAP. So just demonstrating the value of those common formats. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, well, that's pretty much a wrap from us. Is there anything else you guys would actually like to see and something you would like us to address? Anything specific? That's while we're here as a BoF. No? All good? Well, thank you very much. That's us done.
A little nonsense is what I need. Now, if you wanna get the best of me, I'll be smiling, that's for sure. Funny how you